Hi, welcome back to 500 Hobbies. My name is Amanda, and this is the place on the internet where I talk all about my hobbies. Today, we are going to be going through my 2026 knitting goals, as well as my Make Nine, which was a new concept to me, but for those of you who don't know, is basically 9 projects that I'm going to try and semi commit to this year. So let's start with my 2026 goals. In my last video of 2025, I talked about my 2025 goals, which I had set in the beginning of the year, and how far I had come relating to those goals. And, even if I didn't meet them 100%, I think it is really helpful to kind of take a look at what you plan to do for the year, whether it's related to hobbies or work or school or whatever it is. So I really like to do that. So I have a lot of like New Year's energy, I guess, at this time. Soap is going to come. Um, so let's start with that. So I have 5 goals. I originally had many more, but I think it's helpful to be a little bit more concentrated. You want to say hi? He'll just sit in my lap while we do this. So my first 3 goals relate to kind of types of projects. So last year I did cables for the very first time, and I also did it for the only time. So this year I would like to make myself a fully cabled sweater. I think the reason why I had kind of stayed away from working with cables is because everything on my feed was kind of like the really large cabled sweaters, like with the big cable down the middle. Um, and I think those are I'm guessing, time consuming, but also I think are not the most flattering design on me. So maybe that's why I stayed away from it in 25. But I have since seen many sweaters with like lots of little cables, which probably is also very time consuming. But I think I like the look of that a lot better. So the one that I'm looking at right now is this pattern, which I think I also talked about in my cozy sweaters video, by My Favorite Things Knitwear. So that is what is going to be on my Make Nine. We'll talk about that more later. But I'm kind of open to other patterns that have similar design there. Second, I want to be knitting with more color. I think a lot of people say this, and maybe that's what made me so aware of it. But my closet is full of like not really, I wouldn't say neutrals, but like I do a lot of the same kinds of colors. Like for a while, I was just wearing maroon exclusively, I think. And I think a lot of that's bled into my knitting. I do a lot of like navy solid type things. Um, Toward the end of the year, I did cast on, I think, probably my only variegated project, which was the Clematis Sweater Chunky. And I used this really nice variegated like pink red yarn from Knit Picks. And I think that made me kind of think about what I'd like to see in my wardrobe for this coming year. So I think right now I'm really into greens and maybe some lighter blues, but I would like to add to my wardrobe in that sense. Third, kind of relatedly, I have not done a lot of color work. And now that I've been knitting for a couple of years, I think I'm ready. I have done one really big color work project, but it was kind of before I was well versed enough in knitting to understand like all the things you have to think about when you're working on color work. So I just kind of went in there, and I'm sure now that I know more and am a little bit more educated, I could do a much better job on it. So I am going to commit to maybe just like a very small color work um, project this year. Like I've seen a lot of cute like color work mittens or some small accessory like that to just kind of get my feet wet. And then maybe 2027 will be the year that I do like a full color work sweater. Stay tuned. Um, Fourth, this is kind of like a more general, broad goal. But I would like to be knitting with new designers this year, or a diversity, a variety of designers. So now that I've been knitting for a couple years, I think that I've kind of come across the designers that I really like. So one is like Colibri by Johanna. I own a lot of her patterns, a lot of which I haven't knit and probably should focus on destashing my pattern library this year as well. And I've really gotten into petite knit like a lot of new knitters do. And, I think these designers are really popular for a reason. Like their patterns are really easy to read. And I think a lot of the designs are classic. But, there's a lot of designers out there. And I think in 2026, I would like to show some love to a greater number of designers. And then lastly, I think this is probably the most actionable. I would like to join a knitting circle this year. I feel like it's my main hobby now, and I don't have a lot of in real life friends that knit. So I think I would like to make some. I think it would be nice to see people in person, maybe not every week, but every so often, and like see what other people are working on, because I really feel like that's what I enjoy about sharing my knitting on Instagram and YouTube now, is kind of see what other people are working on and draw inspiration from that, as well as maybe meet some knitters who are a little bit more experienced and can give me some tips, because I am still early in my journey, and have mostly learned things from the internet. And I'm thinking about the time last year where I learned that right after I learned how to do continental knitting, every stitch I had was twisted. And I had no idea until I posted a gauge swatch, I think, on Reddit. And someone was like, I don't know if you know this, but all of your stitches are messed up. So I think something like that, maybe if I had like more friends or people in my life who knit, maybe I wouldn't have made that mistake for months at a time. Um, and I think I was working on a sweater at that point, and I just kind of let it go because I was not about to frog all that mohair. Okay, so kind of going off and thinking about these knitting goals, I put together my Make 9, which I tried to make very varied, and tried not to slant it so much toward projects that I'm thinking about passing on right now, because as you can guess, I'm very much in my like winter season here, in the US. So I think if I was to make the Make 9 just about now, I would just be thinking about like big oversized sweaters. And that is probably not setting me up for success, in terms of making all of them this year. But I will kind of go in the direction of, or in the order of things that in the order that I'll cast on. I'm also going to give myself some space. So I guess really it's like a Make 8. I want to give myself some space to cast on things that I come across through the year, because that certainly happened to me a lot in 2025, and I want to give myself space to do that. So first is an item that I think I'll get a lot of use out of, and I think I will cast it on in the next month or so. And that's a pair of fingerless mittens. So a lot of these are not related to specific patterns. I think that will also give me some space to be creative, as well. But I have been wearing my Sophie hood to death. And I was thinking, how nice would it be to have some kind of like gloves or mittens to go along with it. It is quite cold where I am right now. We actually got like 8 inches of snow over Christmas, so I think I would get a lot of wear out of them now. Sofa's leaving us. So that is number one on my Make 9. Second, I have the matcha jumper. I talked about this in my cozy sweaters video as well. This is just a pattern that I've been thinking a lot about, and looks so cozy and certainly very right for this season, but I think it would be a really nice basic for me to have, especially as I transition back into going into the office later this year. Third, I came across this pattern very recently, but it is kind of like scratching this itch I have for like winter dresses. So this is the cranberry knit dress. In terms of color, I really do like the cranberry color, but kind of in an effort to go out of my typical color palette, I think I will try and do something that's not that color. I don't know yet. Um, I think the best part of the project is when you're getting to peruse all the different yarn colors and yarn lines. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I hope to cast that on and finish it before it gets too warm here. But I do already feel like I'm giving myself a lot to finish in the first 3 months of the year. Let's see. Fourth, I am going to put on that cable sweater that I discussed for my favorite things knitwear. So basically just something, anything with the little cables. Hopefully that will be finished in time for me, like before we totally transition into the warm weather. But if not, I know it'll be a good staple for fall. Fifth, I am planning what I call the peacock shawl. I do not have a pattern for this. I think it will probably be self-drafted just because the idea that I have in my head is like so specific. I've shared this yarn before, but a couple months ago, I was able to get this really nice hand-dyed skein from Hello Lavender. It is 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, and 80% superwash merino. I saw it on my feed and it really reminded me of a lot of the colors that my mother-in-law likes. So this year for her birthday, I am planning to put these skeins toward like a shawl for her. So I am thinking about the pattern. The reason I think I'm probably going to self-draft it is I haven't really seen a lot that I'd like for this specific yarn because like it is so nice and variegated. I'm trying to kind of determine what kind of stitch would look best with it. So obviously I'm going to have to do a little bit of swatching, which will hurt because I only have 3 skeins of this. But that is definitely something that's going to be on my Make 9. Her birthday is toward the end of May. So I think I will probably start this maybe once spring begins in March. And that'll give me enough time to like figure out all the odds and ends related to that. 6 is a pattern that I've also been thinking about a lot. I have referenced Hip Knit Hooray a ton of times, I think, through my videos. I get a lot of inspiration from her and like what she's working on, I think, because we have a similar sense of style. But I saw she just did a pattern vlog for the jelly top, which is something that I had kind of come across on my Instagram feed as well. I think this is what I talk about when I say like I like to knit because I can add really unique pieces to my wardrobe. So the jelly top is one that I don't think I've seen a lot of pieces like that even in the store. And I think that would be a really fun one to do for like the spring summer season because it looks a little bit lighter. So I can wear it through that transition. So I think that's the time where I'll work on it. From what I saw from Hip Knit Hoorays, from Rebecca's pattern vlog, I think it's really interesting how they kind of create this ruching by changing needle sizes. So I think that'll be kind of a cool technical project as well. Number 7, I do not have a pattern in mind yet, but I would like to make a crew neck cardigan in kind of like an electric blue color. I also follow Annie Knits, and she did a Frankfurt sweater last year in this really cool electric blue color. So I thought, how cool would it be to kind of have like a statement cardigan in that color? And I don't really own a lot of crew neck cardigans. I think for a while I just thought like the V-neck looked a lot better on me. But now I've changed my mind on that for whatever reason. So that is going to be number 7, and I'm going to be on the hunt for the right pattern for that. Probably going to look at that as like a more fall-ish project. If I can't find the right pattern, I think what I've done before when knitting cardigans like that for others is I have this vest pattern that I really like, and I just kind of like finagle with it a bit to make it into a cardigan. And I think that works out okay, as long as you're not super worried about tight fit, like a Maggie cardigan or something like that. And I'm looking for something that's like a little bit more oversized and casual. Number 8, I also do not have a concrete plan, but I am turning 30 this year. And I would really like to make myself a birthday dress to wear on the occasion. Because it's my 30th, I am planning to do like a bigger birthday thing than normal, which could mean anything because typically I keep my birthday pretty small. But I think it would be really fun, since in the last couple of years I've really got into like making clothes and stuff like that.
My name is
To
Amanda,
splurge
and this is the place
on
on the
some
internet
special
where
yarn
I
or
talk
special
all about my
fabric
hobbies.
and make myself
Today
something to wear
we are
at
going
night.
to be going through my 2026
So that is a very like
goals,
fluid project,
as well as
I
my Make
don't
9,
have
which was a new
concrete
concept to me,
ideas,
but for those
but
of you
I
who
will
don't
probably
know,
be
is
talking about
basically
it
9
more as the time
projects that
comes.
I'm going to
My
try
birthday is in
and
August,
semi-commit to this year.
so it feels very far away now, and I feel like I have tons of time to figure it out. But I'm sure it'll creep up on me. So I will say for the record that I would plan to really think about that more seriously, maybe in like April. Yeah. And then finally, I am going to leave myself kind of like an empty free space in my Make 9 to let creativity run wild through the year. Every year, I see new yarns and new patterns that I just think I have to work with. So I think kind of like a secondary goal that I have for 2026 is to like give myself space to do that kind of thing, take on less gift knits, and take on less like obligation knitting, or not try to overcommit as much, to try and give myself space to really enjoy the hobby and not feel like I am a workhorse. So I think we'll end it there for today. I'm really excited to continue creating in 2026. If you would like more real-time knitting updates from me, I am a lot more active on Instagram at 500 hobbies. And make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel if you would like to be alerted when I come out with new knitting podcast episodes, which I think will happen very soon. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.